Right, so welcome to the virtual Agile meetup that we usually run. As you know, we are going to be running this a bit more as a podcast and interview today with our special guest. And we'll be talking about from brewery to sanitizer. So an interesting topic, one that I think hopefully most people will be interested in, and the true meaning of agility and being flexible to change. So communication. Now, today, as I said, we've got Tibor Horvath. I hope I'm pronouncing that very badly, probably, but I give it a best go. And a little bit of a story. How did we meet Tibor here today? Well, Ines and I actually went on a lovely beer tasting at Ramsbury brewery, Ramsbury estate, and we met Tibor and we started obviously tasting the beers and learning all the things about the estate and how you guys brew and all these interesting things. And we got to the end of the session and you kindly, I think somebody asked a question or said, oh, was it you guys who in lockdown went from like started to create sanitizer for local hospitals and things like that? And obviously, Tibor, you said yes, we did. We pivoted. We realized that we had generated this, we couldn't sell it, and therefore we pivoted and started to do something that actually helped others. And that was like, this is amazing for Ines and I as agilists in the world and trying to be more flexible to change. This was kind of the foundation of what we really like to talk about, and the mindset of being different and actually thinking differently. So I'm really pleased that after a few beers, we were bold enough to approach you and say, would you come and have a talk with us for our virtual meetup? So thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, let's kick off with some of our questions. So firstly, Tibor, tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do at the brewery.
Right, so I am the operations manager at Ramsbury Brewing and Distilling. So I've got background in bartending, bar management, drinking, and then making the drinks itself. So I've got a master's from Harry Horvath University in Brewing and Distilling. And I have been with Ramsbury since 2009, so coming on 14 years now. Started as just a general brewery worker, and then learned how to brew, how to distill, and then worked my way up being a operations manager at the moment. And that's the short story. And I live in Ramsbury since 2010. So I'm quite close by. It's a short commute, 300 yards, so it's not too bad. And we got about 9-10 people working there in the brewery and distillery, going strength to strength. Luckily, we just created a new sort of events room, converting an old storage barn into a very nice space, and we got big plans for the site as well. So we would like to expand the site and do more meetups and classic car show was here last Saturday, Marlboro classic cars. So everything to diversify the business and have more sort of varied income.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think the one thing that really stood out to us was your ability to experiment with different ideas, not only like with different like drinks and flavors and all of that sort of stuff, but I love this way you kind of introducing, whether it's a car show or something else. It's nice to diversify. It's
yes, and it's important as well because like on our topic, when suddenly everything stops, if you have only one certain element which brings you income, and that element is taken away by obviously force majeure because you can't do much about it, then it becomes even more important to have something else to rely on and to bring you much needed funds to carry on with the business.
Yeah, exactly. And the way you say it, it seems natural and like makes sense, right?
Yeah, it
And
does.
it does make sense, but so many organizations and companies and teams out there don't necessarily do that, and it's really odd. And so yeah, no, it's great to see that happen so naturally in your way of thinking. So um Ines, you want to talk about ecosystems and anything in regards to like the different types of work and how waste is reduced?
Yeah, sure. Like I was just thinking that we have this sentence of "Don't put all your eggs in one basket." It's essentially that, isn't it? And if we think about like natural ecosystems, what they do, they very resilient, and one of the reasons is because they very varied, right? So decentralized, varied, and generates redundancy. So if you think about the income, there is a redundant system. So if one fails, the other one continues. And also having the pleasure to have shown around of Ramsbury what you guys doing over there. I would love for you to tell us more about the values, the principles, the way that you are bringing that idea of closed loop. I don't want to say too much, but maybe take us through some of that.
So the main focus point in here to create a sort of, as you said, closed loop or a mini ecosystem, whereby we relying on the produce of the land where we live, and we will enhance the raw materials which come out of that land one way or another, so adding value to it. And during those processes, whatever waste product we would create, which naturally would be waste product, that waste product should be and can be used somewhere else on the estate or on the farm. So instead of being a waste product, it will become a feed product, and by becoming a feed product, creating something else useful, which along the line can be used again and again and again. So the whole idea of the closed loop is not to be like exclusive or anything like that. The closed loop system is trying to generate as little wastage as possible. Basically, that's what we're striving. That's what we're trying to achieve. So from the raw material intake which comes from our land, the waste process streams which we create during distillation and brewing, that is not really a waste product. It becomes a feed product when we feed it to our animals, and then obviously when the animals are big enough, they get slaughtered, and then they become a food product for people. So there is no wastage. Literally, there is no wastage during the processes what we do, and that's quite remarkable. And it's not that easy to achieve as it sounds, because you have to have everything sort of working together in a sort of symbiosis with the farm and with the production of spirits and beer in here. Without that, if you haven't got that, you will create quite a bit of waste. But in our case, there isn't wastage at all, really. So everything comes from the farm and somehow, some way returns to that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember that map on the wall with the cycle. I think that was something that really caught our interest. Yeah, incredible. I think is it Wagyu? Is it Japanese beef that they
No,
feed?
they got no Highland and Highland Cross cattle. That's what we have. So obviously they just came out of winter isolation, well, not isolation, the winter places, and they are now roaming the fields and eating lots of grass at the moment. And they got all the calves by now, so there's lots of little moo-moos running around. My daughter calls them. Yeah, so that's what you can see at the moment. So the we supplementing their diet now, but more likely is that we use the winter time, whatever comes out from our distillery and our brewery. So that becomes even more important, because it will give quite a good protein addition to their diet.
Mm. Yeah, brilliant. So you're not feeding them beer?
No, just to spend grain. unfortunately, the spent grain, or well, it's not unfortunately, because what we do, we obviously trying to get as much sugar out of it as possible. And those cows, they will eat it, but if you try to feed it to horses, they won't, because it's not sweet enough for them. They are a bit more picky.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Horses are picky.
Horses wouldn't eat it. Cows will eat it. Horses looking for something a lot more sweeter.
Oh,
They'll
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's come back. As much as I enjoy hearing about cows and horses, and I do love to hear about the ecosystem, because one of the, part of being becoming more agile, we've obviously got the Kanban, the 7 wastes, we've got all of that sort of stuff, which is like, really important to the way that we work. But talk to us more about a day in the life of Tibor at the brewery. What does that look like?
So work starts in the morning around 8 o'clock. I go and see the brewery, so the brewer and the assistants, and make sure everything is as it should be. Same with the distillery. Go around the site, check all the sort of auxiliary things like our biomass boiler, make sure that's running fine and there is no issues with that. Check the our read bed system, make sure that is performing and is doing what it needs to be doing. Go through my emails, do my paperwork, which I try to reduce because I don't like, but I have to do it. And obviously, anything maintenance-wise, anything scheduled in, make sure is all done and dusted. All the tests, like we do like fire alarm tests, evacuation tests, and things like that. That's planned in. And then helping the guys if they need any help during production, if they have any questions. Obviously, if you're bottling, then the check on the bottling line, make sure that everything is working fine in there, and so on and so forth. There's a lot to do, but it's varied. It's never boring, so it's good.
Yeah, no, that's great. It gives you some sort of purpose. You've got your
And how big is the team?
So we got a head brewer in the brewery and 2 drivers, and Matt, who is shared between the brewery and the distillery. So let's say it's 3.5 in there. And then now I've got 2 distillers and Matt, so 2.5 in the distillery, and that's the production team. So about 7 people. That's the production team, and then obviously we got people in marketing and sales and that sort of stuff, who is office based, and they do the sort of order generation, collation, and delivery planning, and that sort of things.
And so, what's the volume of production that we're talking about with that handful of super
well, beer wise, we're about 450,000 liters of beer per year, and then distillation wise, well, that varies obviously, but we are aiming to do about 100,000 bottles of spirit this year. So that's what we're trying to do.
So with a team of 7 plus or minus like 2 or 4 even, like you're actually managing to do quite a lot.
Quite a lot, yes. Everybody is working hard, but we're producing a large amount compared to the personal numbers. So yes, we're quite lean, to say.
Yes. Nice bling word there, quite lean, exactly. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so let's take a time machine then, if you wouldn't mind. Put your time machine hat on and go back to 2020. Remember that time in 2020. Talk us through like what happened, and take us on a journey.
Suddenly, we were in lockdown. Nobody seen that. Nobody obviously expected that. And we brew for demand. So we have a quite large stock any given time of beer, and beer is a product which, well, maybe lasts 4 or 5 weeks, and after that is above its optimum sort of condition. So when the lockdown came, we had, well, almost everybody working then, but then suddenly nobody was working because pubs are closed, restaurants are closed, so all our outlets where we normally sell the beer, non-existent anymore, and everybody was furloughed, pretty much everybody, except myself. I wasn't that lucky, so I stayed here and I stayed working. And our dilemma was that we had about 15,000 liters of beer, which was going to be wasted because without outlets, obviously, we can't do much with it. And in the meantime, obviously, everybody was scampering for sanitizer because there was none. So whatever was in the system, that has been bought in probably a matter of days. And after that, there wasn't any. Even if you paid top dollar for it, you just couldn't buy any sanitizer. So WHO, they came out with a formula, most of the sanitizer based on the principle of some sort of alcoholic content, which obviously kills any germs or microorganisms. And what we had plenty is alcohol. So luckily, and because we have the brewery and the distillery side by side, we had the facilities and the machinery to extract the alcohol from that beer, which would have been destined to basically go down the drain, because that's what's happened 9 out of 10. So we just emptied out all our casks and whatever we had in bulk, moved it over to the distillery, and we sent it through our beer stripper, which essentially separates the alcohol from the water and enriches the alcohol. And then we distilled it in our pot still and columns to 95% alcohol. And then we used that alcohol, what we created by doing this, plus it was glycerin and hydrogen peroxide, to create a recipe provided by WHO, which was approved by them. And we created quite a large amount of hand sanitizer. And what we did at the beginning, because all of our area, everybody, including Great Western Hospital in Swindon, they just couldn't buy it. So basically, we started to distribute free of charge for care homes, schools, hospitals, and things like that, our hand sanitizer to help them out. And then we obviously came upon the next challenge, is when you try to sell it, but then you couldn't buy the spray bottles. So because ours wasn't a gel, it was more like a, well, it is still, it's more like a liquid. So to dispense it, you really ought to put it into like a spray bottle, and then they become scarce. So because obviously everybody tried to buy them and then reuse them. Luckily, hospitals and things like that, we can overcome that by just delivering in large quantities, like 25-liter drums, and then they had their old spray bottles. They just decanted and they used it like that. So it was quite fortunate. And when obviously those supply chain problems kind of eased up, then we started to sell our hand sanitizer for individual people and businesses. We provided quite a lot of businesses with that, and that's how we kind of survived the lockdown. So obviously all our outlets, as I said, being closed from one day to another, and what we could do, what we were doing, we sold quite a bit of beer and spirits through pickups. So we created like a sort of pickup system where people paid for it. We left it outside in the yard, so no contact or anything like that, all been sanitized before we put out. And then people came along. Then every order had a name on it, whoever ordered it and paid for it, and they literally just drive by, spot your name, open your car door, and put your beer or spirit into your car and go home. That was the special at the beginning, and then obviously this lasted for quite a long time. The demand for sanitizer was really high for quite a considerable amount of time, because the global supply chain just couldn't produce enough. And then when they started to produce, obviously because there was a vacuum everywhere, that just disappeared. So it took at least about a year and a half before you could just go online and buy a standard sanitizer.
Mm.
And then that's the story. That's how we adopted and changed our practices to A, survive, B, to help out.
Yeah. So I have a couple of follow-up questions. I'll start with this one. When you went through this moment of, okay, we got all this beer, we know there's a need for sanitizer, I think we can do it. What were the, I mean, did you go to the team and say, is this too crazy? Did you just say, you know what, I'm going to do it? What was the process of you?
Well, there was no team because everybody sort of been furloughed. I've spoken to our estates manager, Alistair. Obviously got the approval from him, and then we just set to working. It was myself and Graham, who was our maintenance manager. So literally we were emptying the stuff, bring it across on a forklift, putting it through the system for distillation. And I think we had somebody else was, one more person was here to help with the packaging. When we got packaging at the beginning, it was quite easy because from 1,000-liter tank, we just literally pour with a hose, we put it into a 25-liter drum, and then we just took it to the hospital, where we took about 6-7 of those any given time, and then we just dropped it off outside of the hospital. They came out, and then they decanted those into their smaller containers. So that's how it worked. Yeah.
And was it did you just kind of go into work one day or wake up one day and be like, oh my goodness, this is what we can do? Or how did that idea emerge?
Well, the high, obviously you couldn't buy it. So even for yourself or for anybody in here, you needed, if you needed any, it wasn't available. So obviously put 2 and 2 together. You can't buy it, but I got copious amount of alcohol in here, which I can basically transform quite easily and readily available processes. So there is a huge demand for things which I can make or we can make. So it was quite just a literal natural progression of thinking about, okay, rather than go and waste this, we can use it and create something very useful, which was high demand.
Yeah, I'm aware that I'm just bombarding you with questions. Ines, do you have anything? Yeah.
No. Go for it.
One of the questions that was submitted before the session today, and I wonder, in your 14 years working there, what was or what has been your toughest and most memorable challenge?
The toughest challenge it was completing my degree, because obviously I had to do it while I was working, and in English, which clearly is not my first language. So that was for myself mentally and sort of physically as well, because I was studying, like, obviously I worked the whole day in here, went home, take care of family and that sort of stuff, and then once the little one was sleeping, I came back to work around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and I studied for my exams and everything else. So, and then next day I come to work again. So it was quite exhausting, and it's a long process by the time everything is. By the time I basically managed to finish the degree. Yeah. So for me, myself personally, that was the biggest challenge.
Wow. So that, yeah, I mean, that's, I suppose once you get through that sort of thing, you probably feel like you can get through most things.
Yeah, to be honest, it was a huge sort of relief when that's I've done that, and then obviously after that, you can't when lockdown came, it's not much you can do about it. Let's face it. So it's not like if you're thinking differently, then it's not going to be lockdown, or if you rebel against it, it's not going to be lockdown. There was no if or buts. Lockdown and lockdown. You can't go here, you can't go there. You can go for your essential shopping, and then that's about it. So it wasn't something which, well, myself, I didn't consider as uh, as much of a challenge, because it was quite clear what you can do and what you can't do. Well, not for everybody, obviously, because we heard about people going sightseeing and things like that. But it was quite a set out tone what you can do and what you can't do, and then you try to work and operate within those boundaries. That's it.
Yeah, and sort of talking about boundaries then, what was your sort of your biggest boundary or biggest hurdle in that motion of going from, making sanitizer or delivering it to hospitals? Were hospitals fairly easy to get hold of, or how did that work, that logistics?
It was obviously, once we got out that what we're doing, we were obviously just phone call after phone call. If you can help here, can help there, and so on and so forth. So luckily, Graham came and helped me, because so when I started doing, I was the only one here. So I started working at 6 a.m. and I finished around 9 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So that's how long distillation was. And after about a week, I said to Alistair, I ain't gonna go like this, because I'm gonna drop that sooner or later. So that's when Graham came in, and then I trained him up how to do the distillation and how to run the machinery in here, and then we sort of shared the load, the workload, and that became a bit more humane after that, because working from 6 a.m. till sort of 8-9 p.m. that's quite a long shift, and you can't physically you can't carry on doing that for a longer period.
Yeah, it's good that you sort of realized that wasn't sustainable, and you said,
No, it
hands
wasn't
up,
at all.
help.
I was close to dying by the end. I was just so exhausted. It was
Yeah. And so going from like the hardest to the easiest.
Yeah.
What has been the easiest? Yeah.
Easiest is for me. Easiest is to be in the distillery and do something like just do a distillation or a trial run on a gin variation, or creating something new product, and getting the trial runs in, because that's sort of, what you're doing, but it's exciting because you're doing something new. So you're running your stills, but you're running it with different parameters, and you're hoping for an outcome which will be good enough. And then if it's not, then you tweak it, and you tweak it until you get a product which you say, yeah, that's good. And then that's sort of the journey there to get there. That's the easy part and an exciting part for me.
So when you do these experiments with the gin and other things, how do you get customer feedback on a small batch, or how does it work?
A small batch, and then first just we do like an in-house tasting session, and then see what people think about it in here, and then we get like a couple of outsiders as well to come in, taste it, and see what's going on, or how is it received, and then if it's good and it's sort of viable and sustainable, then we make the product. So it's that easy. But what we try to do is, well, not we try to do, that's how we do it, is everything sort of needs to have a connection and a route in the farm and the farming and the local area. That's it. That's the bottom line.
I love how matter of fact you are. It's brilliant in terms of like, that's just how it works. Like, it makes sense and it's natural, and it's just really, really great to hear. And you know, you said you get outsiders to be testers as well. We're not far.
Yeah, I know. I learned that. I didn't know you were that close.
Yeah, so thinking that everything is like connected, and all the plans, and how much you enjoy like trying new things. What's sort of like the biggest or next adventure for the brewery and for the products?
So brewery wise, we always coming out with new beers. The next one is going to be our head brewer Harry. He's created an IPA, Harry's IPA, which is going to be hazy, sort of tropical fruit, melon, that sort of characteristics in there. So that's going to be the next beer, which is going to be out in about 2 weeks' time. So look out for that in the pubs. And then we are experimenting with whiskey. So that's a long-term project, obviously. So we are trying to create something, but without using malted barley. We want to use our wheat as a base grain for our whiskey, and then create a maturation regime where we can get unique taste of that. But that, as I said, whiskey is at least 3-4 years down the line. And then we are going to come out with a flavored gin soon-ish, hopefully. We've done some trial batches with that, so that's going to be the next one. And then there is a couple of sort of limited edition gin varieties in the pipeline, like double distilled stuff and that sort of things.
Brilliant. And you mentioned just now Harry's hazy. Does that mean that in the tea, like, people can just experiment and then just put it out there if it's good?
Yeah, I mean, Harry's our head brewer, so he's a home brewer and quite a sort of beer nerd, if I can say. He can't be a proper beer nerd because he can't muster a proper beard, and without that, he's not going to be in the fraternity of beer nerds. But that's his problem. But he is truly experimenting with everything at his homebrew kit. And then whatever he's going to do now is he's going to be Harry's IPA, and it's going to be unfiltered, so no filtration in it. It's going to be hazy, quite tasty beer, and that's just the next special what we do.
Brilliant, excellent. Well, thank you.
5,000 liters of it for first run, so quite a bit.
Yes, yeah. And is that like your sort of batch size? You do 5,000 liters of the first lot, and then you get
that's one brew, 5,000 liters. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, we'll have to remember that. That's in a couple of weeks. You said I do like a hazy IPA.
Yeah, it should be coming around your area, or about we will have about 120 casks of that to distribute. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Good. So, with our Agile hats on, and Ines with your Agile hat, and the reduction of waste, and this, indeed, this idea of, experimentation, you've got this great sized team that's, pretty much reducing those lines of communication, amongst many other things. Is there anything else that you want to add and share that you think, yes, actually, this is, a pinnacle point that really allowed us to move forward?
So the important thing, what we do, or what we need to do, or I think what we need to do is working together. So we with the size of the team of what we have, people need to be A, cross-trained to do different things, and B, they need to be aware and helpful to each other. Because I can, you might find me on a delivery van delivering cast, because which actually happened yesterday, because we suddenly had so much to go out that we have the two large vans, they were completely full, but we still had quite a lot to go out on the same day. And I run out of delivery drivers because the two who I have, they were on the road. Harry wasn't able to help because he was brewing. So that left me, and I jumped into the little van, and I done 3 rounds of deliveries into the local area, with delivering beer, cask beer, and bottled beer. So we won't let anybody down. And this it does happen. So we have to help out each other. Being like, if we have an event in here, we got a team who deals with the event side, but they can't just do everything. So they have to have the backing from us, make sure that, like, we put up the security fencing, make sure the beer is available, what they want, and is there, and is connected, and is ready to serve. So communication and sort of reliance on each other, if you have a team size of ours, is paramount. So it has to work, and if it doesn't, I think you losing the battle then, because you are up against it. If your colleagues are not on the same page and they don't help. So how we do or how we deal with it, every Monday morning we have a meeting, and then we talk through each and every department. How was last week? What's planned for this week? What's the distillery doing? What's the brewery doing? What the labor requirement to each and every things? If there are events on, or if there's anything happening, how can we support the team who are doing that? What support they need? So you're planning it out for the week, and then you see where you need to sort of prioritize your workforce, because sometimes you can't do everything.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't think there's any more to say than that. And you're not scrumming, you're not Kanbaning, you're not, branding yourself as agile, none of those words, right? You're just getting on with it.
Yeah, that's my mentality. So I'm not I'm not for big words, and obviously it's just I don't. Once something needs to be done, then and there is a way to be done, then you have to find that way to be done, and that's it. Once you found the way, you just get on with it and get it done.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Tibor, it's been such a pleasure to have you come and talk with us today and answer some of these questions and show really how, flexibility's changed, becoming, being an agile organization to not just survive but thrive in this ever-changing environment and world, and being able to do that. So yes, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you spending this time. Okay, I think that's a wrap.